and Seth again with another video. I am Paul Long, SBA Manager with Gisa Credit Union, and I'm joined by Broker Extraordinaire.
Coming from the Banker Extraordinaire, this is Seth Rudin with International Business Associates, or IBA. I sell profitable family-owned and privately held companies throughout the Northwest.
Profitable? What a concept!
I know. We'll do that.
Well, in this video, we're going to talk about some of those profitable businesses that do an asset sale. In a previous video, we talked about a stock sale. An asset sale is kind of the primary vehicle when buying businesses. Would you agree?
Buyers tend to like it because the liability ends when they acquire it.
Line in the sand.
And they can depreciate the acquisition, immediately.
That's very true. So what is a true asset sale then? What do you...
So don't think of it like you're just buying the physical assets of a business and you're moving the tables and the chairs. Of course you're getting that, but you're also getting the goodwill, the websites, customer lists, and you will transfer the employees and accounts and stuff like that. But an asset sale is a legal term that describes how a transfer of the business. So the buyer is buying those assets, customer lists. They're going to create a brand new EIN, and then they'll get transferred into that new umbrella.
Right.
And then they'll choose what they don't want, such as liabilities, right?
Right.
And maybe
old inventory
issues, right? Maybe some old inventory and stuff. So the buyers and the seller will go through and do a count and an analysis and assessment of the inventory, and they'll either buy all the inventory or they'll skip the aged inventory that's slow selling inventory, right, etc. Or they might exclude certain liabilities from the sale.
And that makes sense. And so, what are some of the, due diligence that they have to do on an asset sale that maybe could be different than a stock sale?
Sure. So they're going to do pretty much the same.
That's what I
think. In a stock sale, they'll go with a deeper tooth comb.
Sure.
They're going to look at the licensing rights of the equipment. If there is, they're going to look at the contracts with customers, partners, whatever it might be, to make sure there's no assignment clause. This could also be your landlord too. So most likely you'll have to get a lease assignment. You'll have to, if it's a large customer has a no assignment, they probably also have a no change of control. They'll have to get their approval. The employees will have to be terminated by the seller at the day of closing and rehired by the buyer. It sounds worse than it is.
It sounds way worse. But
we use these words, terminated, but it is the official legal word. But you're basically just moving the employees over, and it's not as bad as it sounds. People do it, and it works, and it's rinsed, washed, repeated, time after time.
That's true. Because, at the end of the day, one business is going away in its entirety, and you have your new entity that you're hiring people on. So it's not like you're going to share the same name. If you're going to share the same name, then that's where you go stock, right?
There's some cases where you divest a business unit from a larger business.
That's also true. That's a good point. So let's dive into some of the, specific due diligence items that, you should be kind of looking in here. So, obviously financial due diligence, right? What are some of those things?
The financial due diligence, you're going to do the same as you do in equity, but you're just not going to dive as much on the liabilities because that's most likely going to stay with the seller. But you're going to look at their P&L, their tax returns. You're going to see if they match. If they don't match, then how come there's a discrepancy? Obviously there could be a couple thousand. Usually it's around depreciation wasn't updated in the P&L.
That's
on the
very
QuickBooks, and the tax returns are different that way. That's usually the big one. You're going to be more P&L and income focused versus balance sheet. You'll look at the employees that you're receiving and determining what's the staff. Is it overstaffed or understaffed? And what should be the right staff that you want to bring over. You're going to look at the equipment, make sure that you agree that it's in good working condition and how it should transfer. And you're going to look at the customers and their customer contract, see how secure it is, that it matches the numbers and produces the same that you would expect it to match the revenues.
So, again, it's most, to kind of just step back and look at an entire thing, you have a stock sale where you're literally buying the assets, the liabilities of the organization. And then you have the asset sale that's you're buying the assets, but the assets could also be goodwill, could be a lot of things. But at the end of the day, I think what you're saying is your due diligence should be the same, whether it's legal due diligence, financial due diligence, it's the same, right?
Exactly.
Absolutely.
It's more of a tax designation.
More of a tax designation, exactly. So, and you briefly talked about, post-closing and integration. How is that seller going to help the new buyer? There's always a transition period, right?
Correct. And usually it's the same in both, in
Right.
small businesses, 20 million, 30 million below. It's anywhere from 3 to 6 months of time that's given by the buyer, right, for free. Then anytime after that, they get hired on as a consultant. Fortunately, the SBA was reasonable and they allow the seller now to stay on longer than a year.
That is correct.
Right, so that helps out a lot.
That does.
Get us more deals done.
That's right.
And protects the bank, actually.
That's 100% true. Absolutely. So the biggest thing we want you to take away is, there's no right or wrong reason if you choose stock or asset. Just make sure you have good legal counsel and as you're buying a business that you're doing your proper due diligence to make sure that that's right and understand the difference. Because if you don't understand the difference, that's scary.
And there's options to sell it like we mentioned on a different call about equity. Mm-hmm. You can structure as an equity and the buyer can still get the treatment depending on certain circumstances as an asset sale. So there are tools in our tool belts to help you get there. And with strong bankers, CPAs, attorneys, and brokers, we're able to get you there.
It takes a village to buy a business.
Yes.
Don't try to do it on your own. It's not going to end well.
100%.
Well, thanks so much for watching, and we will see you on another video.
Thank you.
See you later.
Great.